52, not 50.
Okay, 52.
8:30. 8:30. Text him 3 hours. My God.
Good evening. Welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of September the 5th, 2024. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chair. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted and notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants participating in this meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, Madam Chair, to introduce the commissioners present in the meeting.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, the Chairman of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, and I will be introducing the commissioners, district commissioners tonight. We have our Vice Chairman to my right, District Commissioner of District 4, Mark Alcaraz. We have District 2 Commissioner, Commissioner Whitney Kerner Jones, and District 3, she's District 2, and District 3 Commissioner is Martin Raxton, Commissioner Martin Raxton. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons. I'm a little rusty, y'all. I'm trying to get it together.
Also present tonight, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. If you would confirm your presence when I call your name. Our Vice Chair, Rob Thomas.
Present.
Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Oric Curry.
Present.
Brandon Penniman.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
And our new school board representative, Dr. Chris Small.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Manager, will now introduce the county staff, Planning and Zoning staff present in the meeting. Ms.
All
Duncan.
right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Stewart Stanley, our County Attorney, Laren Wiggins. We have our Managing Director of Development and Planning, James Worthington. We have our Managing Director of Transportation, Suleiman Rana. We have our Senior Planner, Austin Cronin, our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack, our Planning and Zoning Department Secretary, Kim Waters, and our Planning and Zoning Department Intern, Andres Garcia. As always, I'd like to thank our communications team for being here with us tonight, and we always like to thank our sheriff's deputies for their service as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, agent, or property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after Board of Commissioners grant an approval. As far as tonight's procedures go, I will conduct a public hearing. Planning and zoning staff will announce each application followed by a full presentation. The applicant or the applicant's representative and members of the public in favor of an application will be able to present their information. They will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Following that, members of the public in opposition to an application will be able to present their information. They will also have 2 minutes per person with an allocated time of 15 minutes to speak in opposition to an application. After the opposition completes their input or the time has elapsed, the public hearing will be officially closed. At that point, the staff will clarify any points of the zoning case. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant or the applicant's representative for points of clarification. Now, this is not a time for the applicant to represent their case. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight will be the approval of the minutes of August the 6th, 2024 Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board members, after reviewing the minutes, are there any comments, corrections, or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
It's Rob Thomas. I'd like to put a motion to approve the minutes from the August 6th, 2024 meeting.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the board minutes of August 6, 2024, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. Madam Chair.
Thank you so
Board
much.
members' minutes from August 6, 2024 come to the commissioners with a unanimous approval.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, after reviewing the minutes, are there any corrections, revisions, deletions that need to be made?
Seeing none.
Okay, being none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the August 6, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 4 unanimous vote and the motion carries. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first agenda item tonight was tabled last meeting. At this point in time, Planning and Zoning Board, can I have a motion to untable S 2024-34?
This is Frank Payne. I recommend untabling S 2024-34.
And I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on untabling? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of untabling S 2024-34, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. S 2024-34 comes to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation to untable.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to untable S 2024-34?
I move to untable agenda item S 2024-34.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 4 unanimous vote and the motion carry. I yield back the floor to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cronin, would you please just continue the discussion on S 2024-34 from last month?
Yes, sir.
Give us an update.
Good evening, boards. The first item is S 2024-34. This is a special use permit to allow a 650-foot metal accessory building located at 2027 South County Line Road. It's in Land Lot 919, District 18, Section 2, being parcel 20. The lot size is 0.16 acres, and this is in Commission District 2. The lot is triangular. The metal-sided structure is already situated on the property within the 100-foot setback. The applicant is proposing to use the metal-sided structure as a detached garage, and the special use permit is per the Director of Development Services review that the metal-sided structure is visible from the right-of-way. We've taken a look at the relevant code sections, and the accessory structures over 200 square feet are not permitted in the front yard unless set back 100 feet from the right-of-way. The siding and the setbacks are in contention with the UDC, and the metal-sided structure is visible but can be made to be clad in a facade similar to the principal structure, should the board deem it appropriate. Taking a look at the special use criteria, and from the zoning map, you can see it's in a residential low-density neighborhood close to residential agriculturally zoned property. From the site aerial, you can see its triangular configuration, and the present structure is currently sided. And from the site survey, you can see the triangular configuration even better. From the pictures provided from code enforcement, you can see the approximate location of the structure from the right-of-way, and it's in the suburban living future land use and the traditional neighborhood character area. Staff is recommending denial of the request based upon the fact that the proposed use will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the UDC, of the comprehensive plan, since the intended use is accessory to residential. However, it will modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the UDC by not complying with neither the setbacks nor the siding requirements. The granting of the special use will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. Staff is recommending a condition, should the board deem it appropriate. The applicant shall plant a pencil holly plantings every 2 feet on the side of the accessory structure that fronts South County Line Road. These plantings shall be at least 3 feet tall at the time of planting and must be maintained not extended to the right-of-way of South County Line Road. And here's a picture of the pencil hollies. This recommendation comes to us from the Douglas County Arborist. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions as they come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cronin. And if I remember correctly, we held a public hearing on this matter at last meeting, so there is no public comment on this item at this time. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant or of staff? Hearing no questions from plan, yes.
Yes, I have one question for the applicant.
Is the applicant present? The applicant is not present. Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board, since the applicant's not here?
No.
Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, are there any questions this time? Okay. Commissioner Raxton, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
So this is to, I guess, to Allison and Planning and Zoning staff. Applicant's not here, so I don't have anything to suggest or anything to say that the applicant has agreed to what has been put as far as a potential condition of the pencil holly. Is that correct?
When Austin and I did make a site visit to the property, we did speak to the applicant. We told him that this was going to be our recommendation. He did not indicate any objection at the time. As a reminder, the board can take any action they deem necessary. It is not actually entirely necessary for the applicant to agree with the condition because zoning is a power vested in the Board of Commissioners. So if you are inclined to approve the zoning and you impose the condition on it, that is something that is entirely your choice to do. If you would like to continue to table the application for the applicant to be present, you could do that. He was given notice of the meeting tonight, and so I can't explain why they're not here. But as you can also deny the request for the special use permit if you're so inclined.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Kerner-Jones, you have the floor.
So my question's also for staff. If we deny the application, is that then it does not make it to the next phase of design? He would have to remove the structure in its entirety?
So this is a two-part application. They've come to you for permission to keep the metal siding, right? That's what you're being asked to act upon tonight. If he clad the building in a siding that we could approve administratively, he would still have the ability to go before the Board of Commissioners, the Planning and Zoning Board for the variance, to seek the variance to the reduced front setback. If he would choose not to clad the building in a siding that we can approve administratively, then we would turn this case back to code enforcement and they would take all necessary steps to have the property brought into compliance, which would most likely mean that where the structure is currently, it would not be allowed to remain.
And if you could refresh my recollection at the last public hearing, it was basically cost prohibitive for him to take the metal siding down and put the actual siding that matches the fascia of his house on the building.
So as a reminder, it was a structure built without permits. So he poured the foundation and he put the structure in place without any permits. That's the kind of thing we would have checked for if the structure had been properly permitted. I don't know whether it was cost prohibitive or whether there was an issue with the building, but the applicant did indicate he was not inclined to change the facade, and that's why he's coming to you and asking for approval of the metal. If you deny the metal siding, I can't speak to what he would actually do, but as always, our first goal is to get a property into compliance. So if he were willing to come, pull permits, and then have the exterior clad in a material we could approve administratively, we would let him continue forward with the variance request to see if the Planning and Zoning Board is inclined to grant the variance, which is basically a reduction from the 100-foot required setback down to something that's about 4 feet based on where he is from the right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. Chairwoman, I yield.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner. Any other questions? Okay, I'll yield back the floor to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on S 2024-34?
Well, he's not here. Mr. Chairman, it's Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion, since he's not here, to table S 2024-34 until the next Planning and Zoning on October 1st, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? So that would be 6 p.m. on October the 1st, correct? All in favor of tabling until October 1st, 2024, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Madam Chair. S 2024-34 comes to you with a recommendation to table until October the 1st, 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to table S 2024-34 until October the 1st, 2024.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to table S 2024-34 until the October 1st Planning and Zoning meeting. And I would just ask that staff make sure that the applicant is aware that if he wants us to consider this with the condition that he needs to be present.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, and
Commissioner Raxton, you have the floor.
thank you, Madam Chairman. And I guess I would even go, maybe even offer even a friendly amendment that if the applicant is not here on October the 1st, that we will look to motion to have this denied.
So one thing that I would, we can certainly convey that message in regard to saying that you will anticipate a motion to deny. I would perhaps not make that amendment to this motion because it would assume sort of facts not in evidence at the time. And I think here we're to act on the information that is in front of us, but we can certainly take that as direction without necessarily making a part of the motion that if the applicant is not here, we will convey to him that we are concerned that the board would not be inclined to move forward with his request.
That's great.
Cool, thank you.
That's fine, because, yeah, definitely from this member. Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. All right, if there are no further questions, okay, yes, I do. We have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a full unanimous vote and the motion carries to table this item. S 2024-34 until October 1st of 2024. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cronin, would you introduce our next agenda item, please?
Yes, sir. The next agenda item is Z 2024-44. This is a rezoning. This is a request to rezone from residential agricultural to residential medium density for a 33-lot subdivision at 1194 Autry Circle. This is in land lot 703, District 1, Section 3, being parcel 1. The lot is 13.12 acres. This is in Commission District 1. The property has a dwelling with an on-site well, but is mostly heavily wooded. Sewer is available through the north, through the Gateway Village neighborhood, and Autry Circle is mostly gravel road. The applicant is proposing the single-family 33-lot served by sewer with the mail kiosk and a common active play area. We've taken a look at the relevant code sections. The proposed use is compatible with the comprehensive plan, and the traditional neighborhood character area is supportive of developing historically undeveloped large tracts of land. Proposed use would require improvements along Autry Circle to be worked out at DRC. The surrounding residential developments are of similar lot size and are also single-family detached. Taking a look at the zoning criteria, from the zoning map you can see it's residential agricultural. To the right is residential agricultural that continues. To the left is heavy commercial and Highway 92. From the site aerial you can see it's heavily wooded. And from the site plan you can see how it's planned to be developed. It's in the urban residential future land use and the traditional neighborhood character area. Staff is recommending approval with the condition based upon the fact that the proposed use would not modify the comprehensive plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the UDC. The proposed use would not jeopardize the public health, safety, or welfare. The condition proposed is a 6-foot opaque fence which meets the requirements of the UDC, shall be required along all property lines abutting existing residential agricultural zoning districts and the Gateway Village neighborhood. And the Gateway Village neighborhood is in the city of Douglasville. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cronin. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, you'll have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would approach the podium to speak in favor. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present? Okay. Seeing no one wishing to speak in favor of this application, I will open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would, please state your name and address for the record, and then you've got 2 minutes.
My name is William Stanley. My address is 6500 Malone Road. That's my lake you see on that map. I think it's entirely too many houses on a small amount of property. 18 years and 6 months ago, I had mine up here wanting to get it zoned. It was turned down because it would be too taxing on the school. Only one school's been built north of the railroad track since then. That's North Douglas. Wouldn't be no problem putting one house per acre. There's no sewage, have to run out another one. There's no electricity, there's no water. That's a 30-foot road. I own one half of it, Ms. Smith owns the other half of the road. I think it's a bad idea, and I completely oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please approach the podium.
One other thing. Question. What is a no-page fence? Is it a chain link fence?
That's a fence that you can't see through.
Can't see through it?
Correct. Opaque.
Metal or wood?
That would have to be worked out with DRC. But
Thank you. Another thing, I've been here 37 years, and I've never heard of any of you, except Ms. Jackson Jones.
Oh, thank you.
Where have y'all been hiding at?
I've been here for 50 years.
How long have y'all been here?
Welcome aboard.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Oh, seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing on this matter. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions, I guess, of staff, since the applicant or the applicant's representative is not present?
It's time for question and comments or just questions? Is this a time for question and comments?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make a comment publicly, just on the record. To me personally, it just seems like a lack of respect when you've been invited to this meeting and you're asking for approval for an item for a whole neighborhood to go into a community and then you don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that just comes off as a lack of due diligence and a lack of respect for the board and our time and our community and your neighbors. So just for the record, I don't know if the applicant will ever watch this video again, but to me, it comes off as though you don't care when you don't show up to your meeting for your application. That's it. I don't even have, well, I do have one question for staff. Did they mention to you guys whether or not these homes would be for rent or for sale?
That wasn't disclosed.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Briggs, Rob Thomas, I have a question for staff. So just so everybody's clear as to the request, going from residential RA to medium density residential. So let's do the math on that. What would be what could they do by right? How many, what's the density by right? In other words, how many houses per acre can they do by right
So
as current zoning?
Density for residential agricultural is 0.85. That's a little over 1 acre per lot.
0.85?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 0.85 per house is what they can do by right.
But
Is that,
37 lots, looks like.
so I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It looks like about 37 lots.
37 lots at 13 acres? That math doesn't ring.
No, it's 14.
Doesn't ring true. It's only 13 acres. Yeah.
So it should be around
I see math, so I know that wasn't right.
Okay.
So
About
a
12
little over
houses.
13 with all
Yes,
those
sir.
space, you need 13 to 15 houses or something like that?
13, yes.
Okay,
or
so
12,
by
yes,
right,
sir.
they can do pretty much half of what they were asking for right now. So so we understand, we're asking for double the amount that they're able to do by right.
Yes,
Is what they're
sir.
asking for. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure everybody understand that. That's the only question I had.
Okay, yes, sir.
Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, Madam Chair, I'll throw it over Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have of staff.
Okay, thank you. Board of Commissioners, at this time, do we have any questions for the staff? Okay. No
Madam-
questions.
Madam Chair,
Okay. Vice Chairman, you have the floor.
I would like to concur the comment made by planning and zoning. It is a lot for us to come and show up and to be asked this, for us to approve this and then
Yeah.
do not show up to where we can ask questions. You know, it's kind of disheartening to us who are taking the time. So I yield back, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Vice Chairman. With that being said, I yield back the floor to you. Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion on Z 2024-44, please?
This is Brandon Penniman. I make a motion to deny application Z 2024-44.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of denying Z 2024-44, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Z 2024-44 comes to you all with a recommendation for denial from Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to deny Z 2024-44.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, Board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Okay, we have a 4 unanimous vote and the motion carries. I return the
Thank you
floor
very
back to
much.
you, Chairman Simmons.
Ms. Duncan, would you please present our next agenda item, please?
All right. Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is going to be Z 2024-48. This is a request. Let me put this up here. There we go. This is going to be a request for a rezoning. This is going from residential, low density, to a planned residential development. This is a 119-unit proposed senior housing development located at 3215 Bright Star Road. This application is 44 acres. Apologies for my failure of my math skills for the previous application. This application is the one that's 44 acres. And it is signed by Henry Massey. It is in Commission District Number 4. So we have analyzed the existing conditions on the property. There currently is one single-family detached residence. There's a barn and some other accessory structures. There are 2 ponds. There's an underground stream on the property. There is a lot of state waters on this property. This is located in the Dog River Secondary Basin, so it's just south of I-20, and that has a huge impact on how the water is going to flow. So even though this is in the Dog River Basin, this is in the Dog River Secondary Basin. That requires a limitation of 25% impervious surface on the property. The applicant is proposing a planned residential development. The PRD, similar to the PUD, the planned unit development, allows for more flexible design standards. It does not require the commercial component that a planned unit development would. So what they're proposing tonight is a mix of 2 different residential styles that is required under our planned residential code. So they're proposing an overall unit count of 119 units. 80 of these will be attached and 39 will be detached residential units. We have examined the relevant code sections and we have found that it's substantially compliant with the relevant code sections. I would make one note that in 1976, there was a small corner of this property that was rezoned from a residential zoning to a commercial zoning to allow a billboard along I-20. If this is approved tonight, we want to make it clear that that commercial zoning for the billboard is not something that has been asked to remain. So that commercial zoning will be subsumed in an overall planned residential district if you are so inclined to do so. That billboard would then become non-conforming. So again, the proposed use allows this area of the county to transition from the less intensive uses along Bright Star Road to the more intensive uses closer to I-20 and Douglas Boulevard. As I had mentioned previously, the property is in the Dog River Secondary Basin. Some initial site plans were not compatible with the 25% impervious. They have since revised the site plan so that they now are compatible with the 25% impervious, also in dropping their unit count from what was originally proposed as 200 units down to 119 units. There's no longer the need for the second driveway that you may have seen on some older plans. We did analyze the zoning criteria and we have found it substantially compatible. You can see the existing zoning map here, the aerial showing all of the water. I-20 is just there to the north. And then this is the proposed revised lot layout. So as I said, you will notice there's a substantial amount of green space included in this property, preserving the natural areas around the ponds, and then there is no longer a second entrance that was proposed at one time to come through Berwyn Drive, so that is no longer under consideration for this project. Here is a site rendering provided by the applicant. We also have an example of the architecture for the attached units, and then here is an example for the detached units. Once again, just like the planned unit development, the planned residential district is bound by a whole overall regulating plan and overall development standards. So the information that we're sharing with you this evening, as well as some additional information, are all included in the overall design standards for the project and would be incorporated as the standards into the zoning district if approved. A couple other product samples. This is located in the suburban living, future land use area, and the transitional corridor character area, as well as in the Dog River Basin character area. So again, staff recommends approval of this request based on the findings that the use will not modify the comprehensive plan or the spirit and intent of the Unified Development Code. We also feel that the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. And that concludes my presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, that would like to speak on behalf of this, you would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then you would have 2 minutes. Mr. Fowler.
Evening, everyone. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Madam Chair.
Hello.
Let me introduce Henry Massey, who's back here in the back, Bill Schmidt, who's also here on behalf of the applicant, Kenneth Wood, who is here, and then the traffic engineer who helped do the design on this project. You heard it's 119 senior restricted housing units on this 45-acre tract. Just south of I-20, as you know, I measured just under 1,000 feet from the edge of the right-of-way of I-20. The overall density is 2.65 units per acre. 39 of these are detached. You saw a sample, 80 townhomes. They're age restricted to 55 and over. All the homes will be rentals, and they will be owned by McKinley Homes. There'll be no Section 8. All of the homes are single story with 2 bedrooms, with the exception that there may be a few units in which owners request, that is, renters request optional bedrooms above the garage. There are single garages only. The homes will be finished with brick, stone, hardy plank, board and batten. You saw a sample photograph, as I mentioned. There'll be an HOA. They'll maintain the yards in the common area. They'll also have restrictive covenants. The average home size, both with the detached and attached, is 1,200 square feet. As mentioned, there's only this one entrance onto Bright Star. We have the traffic study engineer who can respond to questions. We had the 2 meetings that were sponsored by the county with the residents, many here, I see, attended. There was a question about when we did the counts. There was a study in 2023 where they were counted during the school hours. When we came back for this hearing tonight, we asked for an update. They were counts that were not part of the school year, but they upped that count by 10% to correspond to what appeared from last year's counts, and they report that there's no significant impact. Of course, these will be seniors, 1-car garage only, which makes an impact. There is a 100-foot landscape strip and buffer around the periphery of the community with a fence along the west and south lines. Mr. Wood will describe some specific details. Whew. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fowler. And there were no conditions recommended on this, so we're good. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please state your name and address for the record, then 2 minutes.
Before I start, can we turn it to the one with the dimensions? Oh, you can. Oh, you can. Me, left and right. Oh, just wrong way. Awesome. Kenneth Wood, 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. The 44.8 acres is at a density of 2.61. So we really, really lowered it. We had the 2 community meetings. The first one, we got feedback that traffic, especially the access, we had an access to the south, even if it was fire or full access, that was a problem with the neighbors. We also had issues with how much, we had more about 50 feet to the south and to the neighbors. At the time, we did not have fencing. We had commercial, and overall the traffic was a concern. We actually pulled the application and refiled it as a PRD, removed the commercial, lowered everything from 225 originally, 200, all the way down to 119. So we're at 261 on the 44.8 acres. You see the dimensions. We don't have any houses. Even the lots are not within 100. Most of them are 145 to even 200 in places away. We're at over 60% open space, so we comply with the 25%. with what you're seeing there, all single story. We have really cool pocket parks. There's trails throughout the entire area, so this is amenitized way more than all of the other ones that might be in the area. We looked at some of the other ones. There's not a lot of options for really nice senior housing in the area. We looked at Bellevue and Villa Rica that has over 100, they're 100% occupied with a waiting list. There's 900 square feet. We're much bigger than that. Comparable in rents, Hardy Springs in Dallas, that was 2021. They are basically a little smaller. Ours are a little bigger. They don't all have garages, and they're comparable in rents to that we're looking at from here. And I said where there are no variances anymore to that impervious request as you look at the plan. But the biggest thing when you just look at it is the amount of open space. When you drive in, there's 150-foot buffers on each side, all around the perimeter. There's a billboard on the property. We don't care about the billboard. We're not trying to run the billboard. And so if that was any of the questions. And then the trails around the lake, and the lakes are really nice, so we want to preserve those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? In favor?
Well, I'm not opposed, but I do have a...
State your name and address for the record.
Cindy Welch, 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville. Oh, sorry. I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's a bad development. The only thing is I want the engineer, whoever does this, to review the access to Bright Star Road. Because I live off of a main road, and it is awful getting out of our neighborhood. If you're trying to make a left turn in or a left turn out, traffic is just a nightmare, and that's exactly what's going to happen at Bright Star because it's so close to Douglas Boulevard. That's the only thing I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, you have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes. Sir, if you'd state your name and address for the record, and in 2 minutes.
Jason Sparks. I live at 6596 Biscayne Way. That's at the south end of Bright Star Road near Highway 5. I've lived at this residence off and on for about 43 years. I basically grew up in this home. So I've traveled the Bright Star corridor every day for most of my life. I'm not necessarily against it, just like the prior speaker said, but I do have concerns about the traffic in this immediate corridor where this development is being proposed on Bright Star Road. I don't know if any of you travel Bright Star Road frequently, but as someone who travels that road every single day, I can tell you the traffic is horrible. It continues to get worse. I have read the traffic study from front to back. I've understood as much of it as I can, but from what I can gather, I feel like that the numbers in the traffic study are very conservative. It appears as though they went out there and took a very small snapshot of what really goes on out there on Bright Star Road in a 12-month period. If you really want to see what happens out there, you need to do a more extended traffic study than a very small snapshot. You need to go out there during the holiday season and see how terrible that traffic gets, both in the evenings and in the mornings. We already have serious traffic conditions at Bright Star Road and Douglas Boulevard at that traffic light. That used to be a three-way stop before that. Before that, it was just a single stop sign. I've seen it change over the years and go to the traffic light. When the traffic light was put in, nobody decided to give enough forethought to put in a left turn lane for people traveling south on Bright Star Road and turning left onto Douglas Boulevard. It snarls traffic all the way back to the Bright Star connector as it is now, and I'd say half of those people are simply trying to go through that traffic light to proceed southbound on Bright Star Road. If you put 119 development like this, 119 unit development like this right there in that immediate area, you're going to dump all of this traffic out onto an already very congested area on Bright Star Road directly across the street from Thunder Zone, and Thunder Zone already generates a small amount of traffic.
Okay.
So I'd just like for you to please consider all the traffic conditions in that corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and in 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm Deb White. I live
Pull the
at-
microphone down, please. Thank you.
Sure. I got it. I'm Deb White. I live at 3317 Berwyn Drive. And thank you for taking your time to hear my concerns. I live on Berwyn Drive and I have for over 25 years. We enjoy a residential area. My concern is that letting a high-density development come south of I-20 on Bright Star Road will just let the developers get their foot in the door for more high-density development. I'm aware that the property will need to be developed, but maybe something along the lines of Douglas Manor that is a 55-plus and greater than 90% owner occupied could be a better solution. As a long-term resident of the area, I would hate to see what happens. I would hate to see what's happening to Bomar Road happen to Bright Star, our Bright Star community. The traffic is already all that that little road can take, and adding to it does not seem to improve the area, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. White. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? You state your name and address for the record, sir, and in 2 minutes.
John Keith Thaxton. I live at 6350 Berwyn Drive. We purchased our home back in the 1980s, raised 4 beautiful kids. The only concern I have is the traffic. We're putting 4 warehouses at the other end of Bright Star towards 78. All that traffic is going to be flowing south on Bright Star, trying to get through the red light, trying to go south. And it's just ridiculous now. And when the traffic study was done, I don't know. Every evening from when Bright Star Elementary School lets out to 6:30, 7 o'clock, traffic's backed up from the stop sign at Cowan Mill and from the red light on Douglas Boulevard. People fly already through our neighborhood because it's a shortcut to Cowan Mill. And it's just ridiculous. The property, they have made some changes, and the best thing, they took the exit out off of Berwyn, which would have really bottlenecked everything. So that's really all I got to say. One more thing, fire protection, our infrastructure. I don't know, a county can't handle a fire now. The Chicago Avenue apartments, they had to call in surrounding neighborhoods. So we need to think about that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm Jan Aldridge. I live at 3160 Robin Hood Lane, which is directly behind that property. My property adjoins it. I've lived there for many years, since 1977, and I'm not directly opposed to it. And it's a beautiful piece of property. Somebody's going to build something there eventually. I am worried about the traffic there, and I would also like to ask McKinley Homes to work with us folks that are adjoining their property for some sort of privacy from us and from them. You know, I'm not really against it, not really for it. I know they're going to build something there, but you know, I just want a wall that could not be scaled, because I know in the future it will not be limited to age 55. I think now it's designated for age 55, but and there is just around the corner senior living home. So I really don't know the need for another one. And 55 really is not senior living anyway. At 55, I still had children at home driving, still have them in and out all the time now. So, and I'm 70. But that's it. I just want them to work with us and do something about the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would, state your name and address, and then 2 minutes.
My name is Cheryl Thompson. I'm at 3239 Bright Star Road. The property is a beautiful, and it does need something done to it. It does need to be developed. So I'm not opposed to it being developed, but I'm opposed to watching the traffic out my window of mornings and evenings lined up. Can't get out of my driveway. Try to turn into my driveway and almost get hit because there's a blind curve just past my house going up to the stop sign. Something needs to be done in that regards to the traffic on Bright Star, whether it be widening, whether it be whatever, I don't know. That's not my field of expertise. The other thing that I have concern about is right now, because I do live at the corner of Bright Star and Berwyn, we have lots of people tramping through our yard. I think it'll get worse once there's a community back there if it is not completely fenced to where they can come through the yard. I'm getting it through my front yard. I've seen people walk through my backyard. So that is a concern of mine, that there will be extra foot traffic that doesn't need to be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Do you want to speak again in opposition this time?
No, I would just like to do a suggestion. I worked for Douglas County in planning and zoning for 28 years, so I'm familiar with how things are set up. Sorry, Mark. But one of the things that they need to really look at is when they're developing it and they're going north on Bright Star, to put in a left turn lane to go into that neighborhood. Otherwise, traffic is going to be further down than Cowan Mill Road. But, and I think a left turn lane would help somewhat. Just an idea.
I don't think that'll all be worked out in DRZ. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing. At this point in time, Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of the applicant, representatives, or staff?
Or Curry to the applicant.
Yes, sir.
I know you heard some of the concerns of the residents, and I have some concerns as well. Just want to get some things cleared up. Is it properties for rent or for sale?
For rent.
It's for rent.
Yes, only one management company will even condition it's not individual rentals. This is like a Class A, rental, so that it's the same as like you see in those other ones I mentioned that are so popular.
Okay, so since you said it's going to be for rent, what is the projected rent?
So we looked at all the other ones, the other ones that are really popular in the area. All of them seem to be in that $1,800 to $2,200 a month range, and will be similar to those as well. But ours are a little larger.
Okay, and also, I see that you have, are these townhomes, or are they single story homes that are connected together?
Sure. So, in the top portion here that you see, the very top portion of the property.
Okay.
Those are connected. We tried not to have more than about 4. If you look at the plan, we tried to have strings of just 3 and 4 in a row, so it's limited. And then on the south side, up against the neighbors, those are all detached. They're still single story. They're still age restricted. So this is not something you can pull the restriction from for senior. It'll be deeded like that. But it is single family detached in the bottom, senior 1 level, and then attached in the top. But we just, I know when y'all see townhomes, it's usually 8, it's a long string. We tried to break that up and have much shorter as well.
Okay, and so what is the square footage?
The square footage is, I believe, Bill, is 1,200 square feet. Most of the other ones are 900 and 1,000. Ours are going to be bigger than that. Even the attached ones at the top, the units are actually 28 feet wide, and so most townhomes are 20 or 24 feet wide, so they're much larger because of that single story.
And you also talked about there will be a HOA.
That's correct. That's correct. There's a master HOA, fencing around all, I know there was about the security, there's fencing around the entire perimeter, 6-foot fencing everywhere except against I-20, because there's already a fence there.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Any other questions, planning and zoning?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that it's going to be for rental. Would the management company be able to police the individuals in terms of the age requirements?
Absolutely, and I can ask Bill to come up and run through exactly how it is, but absolutely, it's part of the application,
Part of the application.
as well.
If you'd state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. Henry Massey, 5651 Clinchfield Trail, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. The question was, again?
Policing the age criteria, 55 and over?
Yes. So upon the application process, the age and the license and everything, much like you do anywhere else that's for rent, that criteria is pre-qualified for you to even be able to really make application. We've got to confirm your age. So that's again, this is not age targeted, this is age restricted.
Age restricted?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And would that be part of their rental contract? Would they sign it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question since you brought that up. In the age requirement, you know, if these are, how many bedrooms?
These, mostly 2 bedrooms.
Mostly 2 bedrooms. So with your age restriction, then you come in with one other person, which might be underneath that age of 55. How are y'all looking at that?
They're turned away, period.
Okay, so it's mostly just when the person comes in as a guest, they're just a guest there, and it won't be
Correct.
a permanent resident.
Correct. They can
Okay.
have guests, but they may not have permanent residents.
Okay, all right.
It's Brandon Penniman. Quick question for the applicant. First question is, you said no Section 8, correct? I think Section 8 only,
It's all market rate.
right, Section 8 only allows up to 1,600. And then you said the base rate would be like 1,800 as far as rent?
Closer to 2,000. I was saying in the area, everything is 1,800 to 22, and we're going to be right in that 2,000 and just above that.
Okay, so you guys look at yourself as affordable housing for seniors?
No.
You don't
I mean,
consider
these are
yourself
not
affordable housing?
affordable. I mean,
Not at all.
it's
Okay.
market rate, so it's Class A.
Cool, good to know. All right, I think I just want to say for the record, I think it is important that we have a diversity of housing for our seniors. We have a lot of apartments and condos right now. It is important for them to have their own space and their own individual housing, so I get that part. Another concern that I had was, you mentioned having an HOA, correct?
That's correct. And
Yeah.
overall, to take care of all the grounds, no one takes care of their yard, no one, even the single-family detached, you don't mow your own yard. It's all done by the association.
Okay, quick, so, and maybe this is just me being too observant, but HOA, it stands for Homeowners Association, right? But nobody will be owning these, so really just be a management company?
It is a management, the nomenclature is used very similarly. We do a lot of I'm on the civil engineering side, Henry can explain it, but it is a management company, but they refer to it a lot as an HOA because of the documents are set up very similarly to that.
Right.
Everything is managed under one umbrella as the management company.
Got it. Last thing, are you guys familiar with the Older Persons Act that was passed in 1995? HOPA? It basically says that.
I mean, I know the architects are, but I mean, I know when they go through the criteria of developing the site and then developing the units, I mean, that we have to comply with everything, but I personally don't know it off the top of my head.
I'll give you some background on that act. It just says communities may change their age limit after 80% of the units are inhabited by at least one individual over the age of 55. Is that something you guys are looking to do?
No,
Not at this
all the ones we look at or comparable to, that's not something we've seen in other developments, and that's not what we're planning to do at all, for sure. We want to keep it upscale. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of property. It's the reason we want it for seniors. The lakes, we're going to restore the lakes, have the walking trails, and we're more amenitized than almost any development that you will see. We also have left turn lanes and decel lanes, and any recommendations that Bruce Mercer would have as well for traffic.
Got it. I think that covers all my questions for today. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
Planning
just
and
have,
zoning?
Yes, sir.
one other. Do you presently own the property?
We don't, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We currently have it under contract
You have
from
it under
the, from the local property owner, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
It's Rob Tom. I have ask a question for staff.
Yes, sir.
This is a beautiful plot of land. I mean, very nice. I know, I think Douglas County was looking at using it for a park at one point. But can you speak to the secondary Dog River Basin restrictions as far as the 25% restriction on that? Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure thing. Let me get back to the plan that shows, so this is a character area that shows the Dog River Basin. And we also have our county engineer, Travis McDonald, here, who may be able to articulate this a little bit better than I can. But essentially, as y'all know, the Dog River Reservoir is our primary drinking water supply for Douglas County. So anything that you see there in that blue boundary, right, that's the Dog River Basin. So that means that, you know, water is going to run downhill and eventually find its way into our drinking water reservoir. So we work very closely with our partners at the Water and Sewer Authority to make sure that we're doing our best with new development to ensure water quality and quantity for the future. Now, there are, in the Dog River Basin primary, there is a limitation of 18% impervious surface. There's a requirement for 200-foot buffers back from all of the state waters or streams on the property. So that is our most restrictive area in terms of developing in the county. We look to our Water and Sewer Authority to interpret where that specific boundary is between the Dog River primary and the Dog River secondary basin in regard to this property, because it is right there adjacent to I-20, and I-20 has just so significantly altered the landscape in that area. The Water and Sewer Authority has indicated to us in their impact statements that this is the Dog River secondary basin, therefore it qualifies this property to be allowed a little bit greater impervious surface, so up to that 25% impervious surface, which they do comply with. Does that answer your question specifically, or?
It did, but I want to bring up, when you say 25% impervious, so in other words, 75% can be, cannot be built on.
Right, so going back to this plan that they've showed you here, everything that you see there that's going to be a rooftop, going to be a sidewalk, a roadway, anything where rain is going to hit and not penetrate directly into the ground, the limit on that is 25%. So 75% of the overall site has to be pervious, so that when rainwater hits it, it penetrates down into the ground.
Mm-hmm. So with this particular, it's 44 acres, and 75% of that, I mean, well, 25% of that would be 11 acres. So they're only going to be built on 11 acres total, per se.
Well, so again, I think it's not necessarily building on 11 acres total. It's looking at the impervious surface square footage, right? So it's actually taking
So you
that
take each one
developed boundary,
at a
right?
time
It's
and add
where
it
that
up.
rooftop
Okay.
is. It's where that road goes. It's where that sidewalk goes. That's the overall calculation that we're looking at. It's not a gross
Who
acreage
does that
calculation.
calculation?
of
Who
the
actually
site.
does the math on that? I mean, because you got to count each and every rooftop, all the sidewalks and driveways and.
Right, so the engineering plan that they've submitted does have that calculation indicated on it. As a reminder, the Water and Sewer Authority does review all of these plans, and they do contribute an impact statement. They did not raise any questions in regard to what was represented in the application. The Water and Sewer Authority is also going to have to review any future preliminary plat, final plat, or site development plans. So it would be within the purview of the Water and Sewer Authority to raise any issues with that if they feel that there is an error in their calculations.
Okay. One other question. I know they had their own traffic study done.
Correct.
Did we also do a traffic study? When I say we,
So our requirement is that they have to submit a traffic study for any residential development that would be creating 50 new units or more. They have to submit a traffic study. It is reviewed by our Department of Transportation, and Carla Pashedley is here tonight with our DC DOT if you have any questions about the traffic or the traffic improvements.
yes, I do. Thanks for your time.
Hi.
All right. That's the theme, right? The traffic has been mainly the main theme I've been hearing. And
Yes,
can
I
you
know
speak to that?
someone mentioned Bright Star and Douglas Boulevard. It is on our list of, in our comprehensive plan to improve that intersection with left turn lanes and other lanes, you know. I don't know all of the, offhand, I don't know all of the improvements that are planned, but we do have plans for improvement of Bright Star Road. Now, DRC, when they go through development review, they will look at the entranceway and possibly require a left turn lane and a right turn lane. But that will be during the development process.
Okay. All right, so you did review their traffic study.
Right,
and
right. Their traffic study will be reviewed.
Okay. But it hasn't, so it has not been reviewed.
I think it was looked at by Bruce Mercer, who works under me, and I think he's reviewed it. I don't know specifically if he's has told them exactly what they need to do, but it will come through the development review process.
Right. So you can't speak to it being a major impact at this point, as far as the traffic, the 119 units being a...
Yeah, the 119 units is not a tremendous impact. It is not. The traffic volumes, just a minute. The traffic volumes coming out of the site is in the morning 44 peak hour trips, and in the afternoon 51 peak hour trips. And so, and that would probably be divided by 2, actually, because you have entrance and exit. So the total entrance and exit would be 44, or 22 exiting out of there and 22 entering. Same thing with the PM peak hour trips. 51 would be exiting, half of that, 25 would be entering, 25 would be exiting.
And that's considered to be a major impact.
That's actually pretty low.
Bright Star is pretty, well, 2-lane road, right?
Right, it's a 2-lane road, but that traffic is actually pretty low.
Okay. All right. Just want to get your professional opinion on that.
Okay.
All right.
Real quick, last question, not for you, for Joe and your team. Quick question. What was the extent of the traffic study that you guys did? Amount of time and how long was it? What was the extent of the traffic study that you actually had done for this site? Yeah, come on up. Don't forget to
State
give
your
your
name and
name.
address first, please.
Thank you. Victor Garcia, 1645 Richfield Drive, Roswell, Georgia. So you're asking about the scope of the study. Is that what I understand? Okay. So I believe this was already explained, but we collected traffic counts, the most recent traffic counts, when we were commissioned to do this study in June. We looked at the data that we had collected last year, and these are peak hour traffic volumes. So more clearly, these are 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. traffic volume counts. We collected those last year as well. We compared them, and we increased the most recent traffic counts we collected this June by a 10% growth rate increase, basically. So, and that doesn't account for the local growth rate that we applied for the future no-build condition in the rough 2026 year. This is just the existing condition. So for evaluating how things are right now, we increased all those traffic volumes by 10%, all turning movements, no exceptions. And this is a very standard practice. We've done dozens of studies just this last summer in all the major counties, Gwinnett County, Fulton County, Cobb County, where we use that 10% increase. And unless the county steps in, unless somebody from the district or GDOT themselves step in and say we want a higher growth rate, they accept the 10% increase if they don't have any data that contradicts that, basically. And so we use that to basically account for the fact that schools were closed. Now, so limit, are you referring to the study area, the size of it?
And the amount of time, and the limit as far as like the area that you studied.
So we focused on the most major intersections adjacent to the site. So Douglas Boulevard at Bright Star Road, Bright Star Connector at Bright Star Road, Cohen Mill Road to the south. I know that's an always stop controlled intersection. We noticed that there was a lot of traffic passing through there, and the traffic flow there we noticed was not optimal at all. But those were the main ones that we focused on essentially. Any traffic that goes to another major intersection farther away has to pass through those three main ones that we counted first. So essentially, if you can judge that the traffic impact at the closest adjacent intersections are low, there's no logical reason to conclude that they're going to be any more significant or noticeable at an intersection farther down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, answer all my questions. Thank you.
I want to add one thing real quick for clarification. We have standards in our code of what the traffic study has to cover, right? So if they have submitted a traffic study and we've accepted it, it's because it is compatible with Article 15 of our code, which spells out very specifically these are the minimum standards for traffic studies. I'd also remind you that in our staff report, you have the actual traffic impact statement submitted by our DOT. So if there's any questions as to specifically what DOT has reviewed and asked for, that's all in your packet as part of the staff report.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one, the DOT. When are these proposed changes to Bright Star on your radar? I mean, I go down Bright Star
It's on
regularly
our
myself.
more recent radar, but I don't know when, I don't know, unfortunately, Suleiman would know that. I don't know where in the list that it's coming into. Also, the intersection of Bright Star and Bright Star Connector is supposed to be signalized at some point by some developers. That's an intersection that's in the city, but I have seen
I thought that was a
one.
roundabout.
Well, it might, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't go that way very much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One more question.
Yeah, I just have one more for the developer.
Sir.
Any type of amenities, can you tell us of the clubhouse or?
Absolutely.
Pool?
Austin or Allison, do we have all the amenities pictures that we have? Okay, so if you can see it when you drive in, we have the pocket parks on the right and left. When you dead end, we have a large clubhouse. That clubhouse would be able to host whether it's cooking, whether it's gatherings, different games. They can rent it out and have something there for their friends. So it'll have a large clubhouse. It has bocce. We have pickleball courts. We put all the pickleball courts up against the interstate because of the sound, to be 1,000 feet away from the neighbors. But we have many pickleball courts, minimum of 4 that we show on there. We have grill and fire pit areas. We have pavilions. We have basically almost a half a mile of walking trails with the lakes and running around the entire community through there. And then we're just trying to analyze whether some communities are wanting kind of like a plunge pool and not. So we're looking at some of those different ones. But as far as we're going to be loaded up with amenities, and actually in your packet you can see some of the photos that we have of those amenities. So it'll be the highest amenitized of a development around.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Small?
Just had a question for the traffic study. You said you captured your data in the month of June?
That was the revised. The 2022 study was outside of school.
So while I did not personally complete the older version of that study, it was based off of traffic data collected with schools open. And so that's what we used as the basis to compare the most recent traffic data that we collected in June. So it was this June that we collected the most recent data that was used in this study, and we increased it by 10%. After that increase, we then compared it to what we had collected last year, which was traffic collected with schools open. We didn't see any major problematic discrepancies, so we moved forward with using that data. We used, once again, the exact same methodology that we've used in the past several dozen studies across this last summer for various counties and even studies for GDOT.
So just to clarify, the first set of data was captured when school was in session?
Yes, correct.
The second set was not captured when school was in session?
Right.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants, representatives, or the staff?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
All
Vice
right.
Chairman, you have the floor.
So, I know we're harping on the traffic, but it is, I know Suleiman's not here, but Bright Star and Cowan Mill is on my radar into improving that traffic. I'm sorry, but I'm having a hard time with the study that you're proposing because I drive that road almost daily. I come up down through there. That will be backed up from Cowan Mill almost to Douglas Boulevard sometimes during peak hours, and vice versa going the opposite direction. It backs up tremendously. A lot of, when these residents say that a lot of traffic cuts through their subdivision to access Cowan Mill, it's done all the time. So I'm just having a hard time with that count.
Which part of the I just
Well,
want to make sure
it's hard for me to believe that it's only going to add about another 40 cars a day or 40 to 50 cars a day coming in and out of that access point. My concern too is when traffic is backed up towards Cowan Mill at Bright Star, is the residents from this subdivision being able to get out? It's going to take them a very, very long time. So that's just one of the questions I have. The two would be the cost for me, because seniors are on fixed income, and this to be $1,800 to $2,200 a month, that's a lot more than my house payment. I own a good bit of land, so it's hard for me to think that that this is going to be affordable for seniors at that rate. I know you're providing a lot of amenities. This looks like a very nice development. I'm not saying at all that I'm against this. I believe our county needs something like this because not every senior wants to go live in the many towers that we're seeing built around our county for seniors. They want their own living space. You are absolutely correct. But, and also they mentioned about a fence. So you said a 6-foot fence all the way around. Is this a chain link fence? What type of fence?
Let me know to all the three questions.
All right, go ahead. Let's start first.
So on the fence, just to knock that one out. So everywhere except I-20, we would build a 6-foot opaque. And opaque means you can't see through that.
Okay.
And so we can, work with the neighbors, and whether that's wooden or it's a fence with the slats, has the slats in it, the metal slats, because it doesn't have the maintenance long term, but it would be opaque, meaning you can't see through it. And so that would border the site. And so that's something we're willing to commit to. We're also willing to commit to on the traffic, the turn lanes needed. Working with Bruce, and once we get to the plan review part of this, if we're able to get to the plan review part of this, if he recommended this to be a 3-way stop, we're willing to comply. We understand, we hear the neighbors. It's why we dropped the density so far down, to get to the 119 and still remain age restricted and not targeted, was to really try to help with that traffic flow. But left turn lanes, decel lanes, anything we can do, the stop sign if it justifies. Sometimes the criteria, and I know she may know as well, really well, that sometimes that there's not a lot of the traffic coming out of ours, since it is 119 and it doesn't equate to a ton of people at one time coming out. Sometimes it doesn't justify the stop because they don't want to stop the main flow. But we're willing to look at any suggestions, to help alleviate that. That was one of the reasons we dropped it and got rid of that other access point, because we heard that was a concern for it. As far as the rents, what we've basically done is we've looked at, all the way from Paulding, Cobb, everywhere, and seen, what is successful. And we're even noticing that even down in Villa Rica, and it was built in 2000, that they're even getting upwards of 16 to 1,800 on those, and they're like 900 square feet. And so, and then the ones not far away in Dallas, which are built in 2021, are even a little smaller than ours, and they go all the way up to 2,400, and they're all 100%. So we're just seeing that the data, and then when you go closer to town, it goes to 3,000 real quick. So we're just seeing that it's definitely ready. I mean, people are ready for really nice, especially when you have something like this to be able to walk around the lakes. You kind of have everything built into it. So we really feel like the rates are going to be justified here very easily.
Okay. Another question is, and I'm about to tell my age here, but 55 and up isn't really, I don't want to be called a senior 55. I'm a few years away from that, and I don't really feel that way. Are you stuck on at 55 and up, or because when I think of a senior living community, I'm thinking 60, 65 at that age, because that's when most people retire. And so, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but but I'm thinking in that frame, are you set at 55? Because two, I feel that there's still people at my age or just a little bit older at this 55 range who may not feel themselves as seniors and might get in there and might not really be ready to settle down.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to jump in here, and if you don't mind me trying to address that one.
Sure.
I think the criteria for age restricting is set by the federal government through the Housing for Older Persons Act. So I would hesitate to ask the developer to commit to anything without kind of understanding if they can even commit to it, right? So restricting access based on demographics when it comes to housing, we always have to balance Fair Housing Act. So that would be my only concern about asking them to commit to anything like that, is I'm afraid we might get into territory that runs afoul of the federal legislation that gives permission to do this at all, period.
No,
so that would be my only concern about going there.
I wasn't asking to do that. What I was asking, would that be something that you would consider? That, might be for you to rethink in regards to the complex and the concept that you're trying to sell here.
So I know, and I can ask McKinley to come up here because they're going to be better to ask, but I know in all the discussions we've had, we want it to be active, an active senior community. That's why you have so much walking trail and all the amenities. Whether they would, I don't think you can legally raise the age because all of them are mandated at 55 to be that base. But I can ask Bill to come up to try to address that one.
Hey, Bill Schmidt, 9915 Bice Road, Alpharetta. It's federally mandated 55, so we would keep it at that. A lot of situations you have too is where the husband or the wife is older and the person's younger, and so we're maintaining that 55, and we would like to keep that.
Okay. All right, and then let's see what other questions I have. I'll tell you what, I'll yield for right now, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you so much. Commissioner Raxton, you have the floor.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question, this may be for staff. I know we have the warehouses north of 20, and I'm just going to be concerned about heavy trucks coming through south on this road. Are we seeing a lot of heavy truck and 18-wheel traffic coming down Bright Star now?
So that's not anything I have knowledge of. I don't know, Carla, if I can put you on the spot. Are you aware of the truck traffic on?
I'm not aware of it. Well, I know the upper part
Can you-
of Bright Star across. The upper part of Bright Star Road does have the industrial traffic, and I don't know how far that industrial traffic spills down into this area.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, because that is a
Yeah.
concern I have if it goes south of Douglas Boulevard and comes down Bright Star.
right.
So we're not sure.
We're not sure how much truck traffic goes beyond there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're looking at 119 units. To me, that equates 119 automobiles, not 44 as far as daily traffic.
No, the 44 was peak hour traffic.
Okay.
Right. So it's the people that are moving in and out of the intersection in the AM would be 44, in the PM would be 51. But the total daily traffic going in and out of the development would probably be somewhere around 1,000. You multiply by 10 for a single family, 1,000 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 for a single family, 1,0 homes detached, but this is elder, this is, people that are, a lot of them are retired. So it would probably be a lot less than that. I would have to look at the trip generation charts to see. But it's probably somewhere around 600 total daily trips in and out of the development.
Okay.
Something
All
like
right.
that.
All right, thank you. Question in regards to impact statements from fire, rescue, and police. What do we have there?
Right, so all of the impact statements are included in the packet for
Mhm.
this application. We did not receive any impact statements that called out any specific conditions or anything
Mhm.
above and beyond what they thought that they could anticipate as a part of this project approval.
Okay. And then to the developer, I'm just curious as far as references. Can you tell us about some of your other developments? What do they look like? Where are they located? And 5-10 years after they've been developed, what do they look like now?
Sure. I'll let Bill come up to answer that. One thing I can go back and answer on the fire, one of the reasons we wanted it to be an active community is we know that the really older places do put a strain on the services. And then also these will be sprinkled because since they are rental, they'll be sprinkled. So that from a fire protection, the fire marshal will be excited because it's a higher level than a single family home.
Okay.
Yes, we currently have one active adult community. It's a detached single-family community in Grayson, Georgia. It's 141 homes. We have a number of other rental townhome communities as well that are not age restricted. We have probably 6 or 7 of those now. We have another age restricted community under development in Gainesville, Georgia as well. It'll be the same product as this. But that's currently the only age restricted is the community in Grayson.
Okay. And tell us about how old is that unit? Are those units in Grayson?
They're new. We probably have sold, those are fee simple, and we've sold probably 30 in there. It's 141 lots. It's been open for about a year, about 9 months.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We also built garden style apartments. We have apartment communities as well. So, and we manage a lot of other communities as well. We have our own in-house management for our communities as well.
Okay.
So we're pretty experienced managing communities.
Okay. Do you have an update?
I checked with Suleiman on the Douglas Boulevard at Bright Star.
Yes.
And he said there's no current date, and if we get the T-Splosh passes, possibly within the first 2 years, we'll undertake the design.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the last question is in regards to on-street parking. Will that be allowed?
So we have in the pocket park in the back with a single family detached, we kind of created instead of a standard cul-de-sac, we thought it'd be a lot better to have that design. And so we showed some parallel parking wide. So they're 9 by 24, so they're very easy to get into, no bumper to bumper. We're actually hoping, we talked a little bit to Austin and Allison, we're actually hoping because this is a private development that we would be able to have some on-street parking. Most of the other parking, we do have it off in a parking lot, but it really looks good. It makes the development look good in places where you can have it near parks, and so we're hoping that we'll be able to have that and not have to do a parking lot in that back area.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Okay, any other questions?
I do, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Kerner-Jones, you have the floor.
Who's the property management company?
It will be McKinley Homes. They manage all of their developments.
And what is their, I guess, rating in terms of reviews and feedback from current residents?
Henry Massey, 5651 Clinchfield Trail. We do currently self-manage all of our communities. So we're I mean, obviously, we're regulated by ourselves and the amount of rents and/or, how successful we are in getting our rents. So there's no rating per se, but it is our own property management company that will be governing this entire site. Certainly for the next 5 to 10 years. And in order to get the rents that Commissioner Alcaraz was talking about, that's hard to get. These things have to be kept in pristine condition all the time. I mean, from the property management company to mowing the grass to customer relations. It's soup to nuts.
And how much is the HOA fee?
It's actually not an HOA, it's a property management company. So the fee actually comes with your rent. So it's part of your rent, of the total rent of $1,800 to $2,300.
And year over year in your other properties, how much is that rent increasing each year?
It really depends. We've had a 3% increase. We've had a 5% increase, but I would say on average, it's probably closer to 2%.
2% per year?
Yes.
And have you all studied or considered what the current minimum or median household income is for Douglas County's 55-plus population? If they can afford that, I understand they may be able to afford that in other locations, but is that actually market rate and affordable here for that population?
That's a great question. So before we even had our first meeting with Commissioner Alcaraz or the neighborhood for what we wanted to do here, what we do is we do a comprehensive market study before we even start spending a dollar on this thing to make sure that it's feasible. What came back in that market study is that there's a ton of pent-up demand, and there's a huge lack of rental 55 and over Class A communities in the area, which is exactly why we're here. We think it's a hugely desirable area. We love the piece of property. We really love the lakes and how they're going to be incorporated into the walking trails and to the passive amenities that we have planned. So that was really the first thing we did to make sure that we could really get the rents that we were talking about getting in order to make the project feasible.
What made the decision for you all to offer these as rentals as opposed to fee simple for purchase?
Mainly because y'all don't like fee simple townhomes. But from a rental perspective, we just think there's a big gap.
When you say y'all don't like fee simple.
Well, let me rephrase that. We think there's a big gap, and that's what our market study said, so that's what we would like to do is for rent, 55 and over. And these obviously aren't townhomes either. These are attached, one-story, master down units, along with the detached.
I yield back, Chairwoman.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Kenneth Jones. I do have a question for you. Are these, for the applicant, are these homes ADA compliant?
Yes,
Oh,
they have to be, I guess they
yes,
have to be.
okay. And also, I just want to dovetail on Commissioner Jones's question regarding feasibility in the study. You said you conducted a feasibility study to determine our senior affordability here in terms of income here in Douglas County?
Yeah, that was the first thing they
what,
launched.
What we really don't want is an abundance of vacancies if you build these units and then you...
There's no doubt it's a $50 million project, and they wouldn't put that much money out if they thought it was not going to be successful.
Okay, and also we have a bilateral problem here. We do need senior housing, for our seniors, that's great. But also we have an infrastructure problem with the traffic. So I don't want us to just glaze over that. We want to, did you say you were willing to make some concessions and build a decel lane or something to that effect?
Yeah, left turn lane, decel lanes. We know we need to do our part for our
how
development.
How soon can you do that? Will it be
It would be
it'll be a joint effort?
If we were approved and, once we start construction, we would install the decel as part of the units being delivered.
So that would take the pressure off the traffic flow that our citizens are complaining about?
It would help get the people in our development in and out. Just as you kind of heard, they mentioned that a decel lane would help and a left turn lane would help.
Those, okay. And I have a little heartburn about that traffic study in June because that's when school is out, and you bumped it up with a 10% increase. Have you thought about doing something fresh, just looking at one, since school is now back in session?
We're like I said, I mean, I've personally worked on a lot of different projects in the county and in the city here with Bruce, and I know exactly, and so we're willing to commit to doing a new study now that school's back in and looking at what the traffic is. I just know how, as Bruce will look at it, most likely those turn lanes that we're talking about committing already is I feel like they will be justified. And so that's why I was offering that we would go ahead and commit to doing those for the study. But if there's data that can help the county as far as us updating a study, we're happy to do that too.
Yeah, data always tells the truth, so if you could provide that information, I guess, to
We're fine with doing that.
to our planning and zoning manager, would be
Sure.
greatly appreciated. All right, I have no further questions. I yield the floor back to you.
Madam Chair.
Okay, wait, we have one question. Vice Chairman, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, I just heard one comment I want to clarify.
Yes, sir.
I heard the comment that you own these properties for 5 to 10 years. What's going to happen after 5 to 10 years?
I don't think you guys.
Mr. McKen, a gentleman made a...
To date, we have not sold any of our units. We don't plan to. But if we did, it would have to be to somebody who's going to maintain the same level of commitment that we do. As Kenneth mentioned, that this is a $50 million venture. So it's going to have to be maintained basically to a Class A standard in perpetuity in order to get the rents that we need, no matter who the owner is.
Okay. All right, and I got one more for you, Allison, or looking on a map directly across that entrance, is that a residence on the other side? Or I know that there's a lot or a vacant wooded area down that way.
I believe it's in proximity to Thunder Zone. Let me see if I can get back to, does that show you a little bit better?
Yes, so there is a house directly on the other side?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Okay, thank you. Before I yield back to you, I have one question for you, Allison. Would
Yes, ma'am.
those decel lanes be part of the conditions of this, the things that he just mentioned, that they would do to relieve the traffic flow,
Right,
the
well,
pressure?
I would probably hesitate to put that in as a condition only because I'm not the one qualified to say what the actual conditions are going to warrant. I would say that any required traffic improvements are going to have to be put in as a condition of getting their land disturbance permit. So once they get their land disturbance permit and they can start clearing, grading, and putting in their infrastructure. So all of that is going to have to be done before such a time as we would give them permission to get building permits and actually build out any residency to do that. So anything that's going to be required by our Douglas County Department of Transportation, they'll have to comply with that. They'll have to, issue all of the bonds that we're going to require for any infrastructure improvements or anything like that prior to the ability to actually build the homes. And I think Travis McDonald is sitting behind me, our county engineer, so if he wants to, suggest contrary to anything that I've said, I welcome him to do that. But he mostly manages that process once they get through zoning and they're in front of the Development Review Committee. So I don't know.
Travis, if you could come forth and just give us an update, if you don't mind. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
So, as Allison said, the
Name?
Oh, Travis McDonald, 54 Camers Court, Douglasville. So, as Allison said, any road improvements that are needed due to the traffic study or anything else, that will all be reviewed and approved through our Douglas County DOT when we do the full design plan review through our Development Review Committee. So I'm confident that if the turn lanes and everything are warranted for this development, that they will be put in as part of the construction of the development.
I heard the word warranted. It sounds like it's a necessity. Is it?
I have not reviewed the traffic study, but if the traffic study that will be, or either has been reviewed by our DOT or will be reviewed by our DOT says that the lanes are warranted, then they will be built.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to add that when they come with their traffic study to DRC, we take a look at it. If their volumes are wrong, we have data right now on Bright Star Road because we count traffic on all of our major roads in the county every year. So we have that data, and we can look at what they did and look and see what is needed. And we would base a left turn lane based on the traffic of Bright Star Road because that is something that would interfere with the travel of the traffic on Bright Star Road. So even if there's a small number of cars turning in, it would be impeded. It would be impeding the traffic on Bright Star Road, and we could require a left turn lane. Okay.
At this time, it just appears that the data is not aligning with the experience of what we are hearing from our citizens. And we just trying the board, we try to leverage those two things, the experience what our citizens are experiencing versus your data. So we just want to make sure we can align those two. With that being said, I yield back the floor to you.
Thank you.
Chairman Simmons.
Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do I have a recommendation, a motion on Z 2024-48, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a recommendation to table this project, Z 2024-48, until we get more definitive traffic, the DOT, until they can certify that turning lanes will be installed. And if we can table it until that is more clear, maybe a study.
You can only table it until our next meeting on October the 1st. Is that not correct, Ms. Duncan?
So that is correct. We would ask that if you table it to a date certain. If there's a specific thing that you would like us to produce by that time, we can certainly produce it. But I mean, again, I want to underscore that I do think that what Carla Pachedli indicated was correct. If the turn lanes are warranted, they will be required. I think when you get into the designing of the road network and when you look at all the improvements that are going to be made, I'm going to discourage those of us non-technical experts, and I include myself in that, from trying to say like, hey, this is what we need to do to make this safe, or this is what we need to do to make this perform. So again, you may certainly table it, and you may ask for them to bring back any information that is wanted. But I would request that we trust the staff that we have to make the decisions that need to be made, for our engineering and our technical improvements at such a time as the project moves forward. It's a detail that I think would be perhaps a step too far to require, to say that you need to do this specific type of improvement if overall that's not going to, make traffic any safer or better or anything in this area. So if you
So that being said, then we'll trust our DOT department to do the right thing if it's warranted, to require what's needed to relieve the traffic for the existing residents as well as the new development.
Yeah, so again, that would be my hope, is that you would trust them. I absolutely trust them to do it. We can bring back the revised, traffic study if you feel like you need to see that again, but my recommendation is going to be that, you trust the technical staff to do what they're on the payroll to do in this specific instance.
Mr. Joe has what do you want to say?
I think what...
Excuse me, Allison. We'll stipulate that we'll install the left turn lane so that the traffic going northbound, for example, will bypass the traffic that needs to turn left, and if the same thing is necessary coming south, we recognize it's going to be required, and we'll stipulate that so that it is not going to be required on your part, at least, to come back and hear something later.
Right, okay. All right, with all that being said, then I'll change my motion to approve Z 2024-48 with there were no conditions, but, okay, then just approve it as it stands.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? But I'd like, as far as discussion, add the fact that we have all attended the DRC meetings from the past, and they are pretty thorough with taking care of what needs to be done. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving Z 2024-48, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Madam Chair, Z 2024-48 comes to you with a unanimous recommendation for approval.
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Z 2024-48.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 3-1 vote, and the motion carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Best of luck to you folks going forward with this. Mr. Cronin, our next, let's give those folks a minute to get out, and then we'll take our next agenda item, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that Mr. McWhorter? That's what I thought.
Well, DRC.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Mr. Cronin, if you'd go ahead with our next agenda item.
Perfect, thank you, sir. The next item is Z 2024-52. This is a rezoning from residential low density to general commercial for daycare on Simon Road. This is in land lot 88, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 13. Lot size is 4.7 acres, and this is in Commission District 3. The property is currently vacant and heavily wooded. There are possible state waters on the property per the Water or Sewer Authority. Sewer is available within approximately 1,000 feet along Georgia Drive to the northeast. We've taken a look at the relevant code sections. The proposed use is compatible with the comprehensive plan as a neighborhood commercial use that complements the existing church to the south to serve the surrounding neighborhood and single-family lots. The incompatible use buffer would make use of native plantings and can be made to be supplemented where gaps in screening exist. The UDC does provide for limited hours of operation for daycare centers when abutting residential properties. Taking a look at the zoning criteria, and from this zoning map you can see the PUD neighborhood to the left. That's the Woodlands neighborhood. And from the site arrow you can see it's undeveloped. From their site plan you can see there's a 10,000 square foot building, and then the playground is to the south. Their proposed detention pond is to the north, and then they have proposed septic fields as well. From the site plan, you can see their incompatible use buffers and a structural buffer to the north for screening. From the site plan with the water flow, you can see the direction the water flows when it rains. And it's in the suburban living future land use and the traditional neighborhood character area. And staff is recommending approval with a condition based upon the fact that the proposed rezoning will not modify the comprehensive plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the UDC, and the proposed use will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. The condition is that the proposed use is for a daycare only. Any other proposed use would have to return before the Board of Commissioners and the Planning and Zoning Board. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone, including the developer or the applicant, would like to speak in favor of this application, we have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then 2 minutes, please.
Good evening. Amy McCoy, 9938 Ashton Old Road. I wasn't even prepared to speak on this, but one of the things I'm really excited for is this because the area needs a daycare. My concern with the condition, because even after speaking with them, one of the things that they are going to consider discussing with the owner is actually extending their timing to be able to afford a little bit more allowance for homeowners, not just homeowners, but the residents that are in this community that do work multiple jobs different times a day in order to have those extended times. So when we say daycare, it's a little bit more than just the day hours. So I just want to kind of throw that in the mind space of when we put these type of conditions out there, who the residents are in that community, who will be utilizing the services in this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, good evening. My name is Kevin Edwards, address 3185 Quinn Road, that's in Chambly. I'm the engineer on the project, and I just wanted to, I went to the community meeting, and there were some questions that I added some sheets just to address. Oops. I just want to address it early, just to speak to the, the one. Yeah, that one. At the community meeting, there were several concerns that, our site the development would create a lot of runoff issues onto the neighboring properties. So we went through and did an overall basin study, and there was also thought that the state water was actually on our parcel. So what we did was a more extended drainage basin map, and it shows that the stream is actually on the parcel north of ours, and it actually goes under a culvert on the Simon Road. And also just the fact that yes, there are sections of our site that the road is higher, it falls off to where our development would be, and then the site actually rolls back up to where some of the back end actually falls off onto the neighbors. We are, however, not touching any of that area in the back because we have that 50-foot undisturbed buffer, and we'll keep that area the same. The areas that we're touching or will impact is the area that's in that somewhat of a swale or lower area that we're gonna capture all the impervious area that's disturbed and put it in our detention system, and then that would eventually go towards the creek on the north of the picture right now. So just putting that out there, but in support. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? You state your name and address for the record in 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, good evening. My name is Calvin Willis, address 8617 Bowden Street, Douglasville, Georgia 30134. And I am in favor of this particular project because I know the need for childcare in the Douglasville area, as my wife and I have 3 children, 2 of which our sons go to the same school, Harvester Christian Academy. Our youngest son, he goes to Children's Courtyard, but at the time there was a waiting list, as there are many waiting lists around the area. So that speaks to the need that we have in this area. We have more children that need child care than we do suppliers. Mm-hmm. And I think my family has been in Douglasville since 2015, almost 10 years, where we spent 9 of those years in Chapel Hill. In Chapel Hill subdivision, as soon as you pull in on Chapel Crossing, there is a daycare right there on the right-hand side. So there is and that one, we tried that one. That one also had a waiting list at the time. So you have to get in there. If you don't, you'll find that you have to kind of go all around the city. So with that being said, I think with what she's trying to do, and I know it's within a subdivision and a community, that's not uncommon. And I think it's the best place for it because you have built-in families right there that will support it. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Willis. And you had a little cheering section back there. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Good evening.
Good evening. State your name and address for the record.
Tanya Wright, 71 Howard Street, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm with the builder on the project, and I'm coming up on behalf of the owner, who is the lady with the crying baby. So, as you can see, daycare would be a great opportunity, a service for her, but she is wanting to speak and is excited. She's a resident of Douglas County and knows there's a need for it, and purchased the property with the intent of providing that service for the community. She has young children and is intending on having that daycare there for years to come if we are permitted to go forward. And also, she is aware that there are a couple others that are not directly in the area that do have a waiting list, and so she believes that there is a need and would be grateful for the chance to serve the community in that way. So we thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, before you leave,
Yes, sir.
you're representing her at this point in time? since she's
I'm
not-
just speaking on her behalf because she went out
okay.
with the baby.
Because there is a condition on this rezoning, and I just need to get somebody to affirm that they agree with that condition. The condition is that the property can only be used as a daycare. If it's committed to any other purpose, it'd have to come back before the board for approval.
Yes, and we are aware of that condition, and we.
And you are in agreement?
Yes,
And
sir.
the developer back there, the
Yes, sir,
builder?
the engineer and the developer, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one else moving, I'll close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You two would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then 2 minutes, sir.
Michael Slacky, 4791 Coral Bell Court. My home backs up to this property that they would like to build on. The rainwater rushes through there like a river. You go lopping down all those trees, it's just going to rain even harder into our yards. If you look at that map, everything on this left-hand side that goes that way, that's where our homes are. There's 6 homes in there, and the water does race through there if you get a good gully washer, as they like to call it. You take down all those trees, it's got nowhere to go. It's going to go that way, or it's going to go into the street. You're not going to be able to control it. Right now, most of the folks that live there have controlled the problem so it runs through their driveways or the sides of their houses, not towards their house. We have fantastic wildlife back there. We got deer, we got hawks. The hawk, excuse me, I know that sounds bad. The hawk, yeah, it's an ethnic name, I apologize. But I've been here since 1997, and I've been in that house since 1997. But we got wonderful wildlife back there. You go tearing all that up, they're gone. They're gone. Now, I know everybody likes progress. And old farts like me don't make progress. But we've been there since 1997. We plan to stay there. I've raised my kids there. My wife has worked in the school system for 30 years. There's no reason for a daycare center out there. There's 23 other daycares in this town, and there are plenty of them that have availability if you look hard enough. Maybe it's not in your backyard, but it's there. It's available. I saw one that was offering a $350 discount. I'm not going to use any names, not going to tell you where it was, but if you look, they're there. I'm not sure we need a daycare center. I'm not sure we need anything back there. You want to build a couple of houses, we can probably live with that. But the 50-foot buffer that you're planning there, 50 foot, heck, that's from here to the wall. That's nothing. And you mow down all these trees, that 50 foot is eventually going to die because you've tore up everything underneath that root system.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in opposition. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do you have any questions of the applicants or of staff?
Mr. Chairman, Rob Thomas, I have a question for staff first.
Yes, sir.
So currently it's residential low density, right? That's the.
Yes, sir.
So by right, and based on what you told me earlier, roughly 0.7 per, one house per 0.7 acres, we can.
The residential low density is a little bit
Big, more than that?
more, so
Hmm.
it provides for 1.1. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What, one, okay, so we'll go with 1.6. Right. So 1.6, and this is, four, okay, so we can get three, well, per acre. Oh, so we can get about 7, 8 houses there right now, the way it's already zoned for by right.
By
So
right, yes, sir.
the argument that tearing out, developing this area, developing this land, it can be developed right now anyway, just as a residential, low density, 7 or 8 houses can be in there right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's not going to stop any development if we don't go forward with this. It's just something to be mindful of. Is there any type of report that reflects the concerns of the, topography as far as the water traveling in different directions that's going to cause problems?
So I would defer to the engineer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking real fast. The fact is, it's factual that the back end of the parcel does fall off towards the neighbors. We're not touching any of that. There's a 50-foot buffer. In addition to that 50-foot, you can go over another 50-foot, probably another 100, total 100 feet where our development doesn't start. We purposefully kind of put our development towards that bottom right portion, and then we're draining everything. It says north on the layout, but pretty much to the low point and then towards the stream. So whatever is happening now with the water, the trees will remain there. Yes, it's probably not ideal, but it's happening now. We're not changing that. We're not touching that area. So
You said the buffer, what's your buffer right now? It's going to be?
there's a 50-foot buffer.
Right, is 50 foot supposed to be there anyway, right? Just because of incompatibility.
Yes.
But so you're going to add to that?
I'm just saying we have our development, our impervious disturbance doesn't start for another 50+ feet past that. So I'm saying there's a total right now of what we're proposing for our development that we're almost 100 feet away from that property.
Okay.
Is what
So
I'm
50 is
saying.
required because of
50 is required.
incompatibility
Yeah.
of the two properties, of the two zonings, and you're going to do an additional 50.
We have, what I'm just saying is that when we were citing our development, we made sure that we pushed it as far away as we could in addition to the required 50.
Okay, so you don't know exactly how much, but it's going to be more than 50.
Yeah, it's visibly, excuse me, looking at it, it's probably more than 100 feet past that.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned to the north. What about to the left or to the west of it? What kind of buffer do you have there? You mentioned the north. I see all that. I mean, you got all this space there. You got the retaining pond. But what about to the west?
Yeah, that's 50 as well.
It's going to be
That's actually where I was talking about, sorry.
Oh, okay. So that's going to be 50 plus
50
there as
plus.
well. I see the top going to be. I can see that.
Yeah.
But I can't tell, reference as far as to the west. What about to the south?
To the south is 50 until we get to where the playground is. We're going to have an opaque, the zoning allows a 6-foot opaque fence along that property line. So that's what we'll have at that portion where you see the heavy foliage kind of diminish.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I just want to make a quick comment. I'm in the business, and I get all kind of calls for daycares every day. So we do need daycares here, in my opinion, in this county, just based on my experience of servicing clients for that. So anyway, I yield.
Any other questions, planning and zoning?
Or Curry to, I guess the person who, I see she came back in. Can you step up? I know you had to step outside with your child. Question is, I know they talk about extended hours. What does that mean with extended hours?
When community members ask about extended hours, they're generally referring to around midnight. From the research that we've done, it's only one facility that is currently in Douglas County that stays open until midnight. Previously, probably about 6 years ago, it was a child care facility that was 24 hours, but there's not one in the community at this time. We don't foresee our facility being open that late, but when that question is asked, sometimes they're asking until midnight.
How many kids are you planning on having in your daycare?
Currently, yeah, that's what we're trying to be approved for.
170?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's a lot of kids. I know that there's a need for childcare after 6.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, one thing that happens with that is you have people who work in factories, you have people who fire and rescue, public servants who work a little bit later. So I applaud you for that and trying to have that, because daycare is very important for the people in the community. I'll yield to any other board member.
Just want to reiterate the point, Brandon Penham here. I just wanted to reiterate the point, as a local missions pastor, I'm at a local church. It's something that people are even calling the church about, daycare. We have waiting lists for the daycare that's at my church right now. So it's definitely a need in our community right now. That's it.
I have a question for you, if no one else had one. What's your experience with running a daycare?
So my background is I'm a social worker. I have been a social worker for over 20 years. In regards to the child care center running the facility, I do not have extensive experience in that area. However, I've hired consultants. I've worked with consultants, and that's who I will be leaning on to run the facility, like our directors. But my background is in the area of social work. So I've worked with small children as well as adults. My desire for the child care center comes from having children of my own and wanting quality child care. I think one of the individuals here mentioned that there are several child care facilities. They're offering discounts, but what we are, as parents, are having to pay, we want to have quality child care. The prices of daycare is going up, but the quality of care for our children is going down. So as a social worker with my experience in that area, this has become a passion for me. So, yes.
Okay, you mentioned that you work with consultants.
Yes, sir.
Have you also been working with Bright from the Start?
Yes, my consultant has, yes. The consultant that I hired, unfortunately, was airlifted today. They felt like she was having a stroke. So, but yes, the consultant that I have actually started one of the first Georgia pre-K programs. So I'm very familiar with Bright from the Start and the policies that they have in place. We would have to go through quality rating that would be through Bright from the Start. So yes, sir, I'm familiar with them.
Okay, great. So you know it has to be sprinkled and all that.
Yes,
sprinkler
sir.
System. Okay.
Yes, sir. Just so you and the community is aware, I'm very vested in this project. I'm already $30,000 in regards to consulting, just making sure that my policies are in place. It's in line with what the state of Georgia is saying that we have to have in order to ensure that we're providing quality child care for the residents here in Douglas County. And that's just for consultant. That's not even trying to make sure that what is being presented to you is at standard as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
yield.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you folks may have.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, we have any questions? I saw Commissioner Raxton's hand first this time.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you mentioned 170 children.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
kind of give us a breakdown of the ages of the children? And do you have an idea of how many per grouping, if you will, of this 170?
So the ages the plan is to start at age 1 and go up to 12. The reason why we're going up to 12 is for the before school care and the after care. So even though we're trying to be licensed for 176 children, that many children is not in the facility at the same time. There are some parents that they only need childcare on the days that they're working. So you may have parents that are doing what we call drop-in, or just the parents that need their kids to come to the facility only for the purposes of the morning before they go to work in order for us to ensure that they get to school, as well as the children coming in the afternoon.
Okay. And for those children, let's say like the older children, what
Yes, sir.
type of activities are you planning to provide to the older children?
So in the after-school program, we plan on having a curriculum where we are actually partnering with the schools that the children are located with to make sure that they're getting their homework, they have their snacks, and et cetera. So it's really to make sure that what they're doing, their work that they're doing in school is finished when they get to the after-school program. I can't speak for you all, but I know for myself and many of my fellow friends that have children, by the time we get off of work to get to the child care center to get the child, the last thing that we want to have to do is by the time we're getting home at 6:30, 7 o'clock is to have to do homework. So we want to make sure that we're having that environment where the kids are able to complete their work that they're having at school.
Okay. And then with the consultant, are you also addressing your staffing level? And what does that look like?
Yes, so the consultant is addressing the staffing issue by ratio. That's in line with the state. So for example, if we have 16 kids in one class, that would be the primary teacher and the teacher's assistant. So it is based on the number of children that are in the facility at one particular time.
Okay. And then one of the things, as you can greatly be aware of, is that there is a heightened awareness of security.
Yes.
Sensitivity around security.
Yes.
So can you talk about maybe an additional measures, or what is your views from a security standpoint?
So in regards to the security, it is our plan for just anybody can't come into the facility, excuse me. So what we would do is, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. So what we would do is when you come into the to school, the plan is to be double locked. You have to if the parents or the individuals that's coming into the facility, if they're not on the list, then they're not able to pick up those children. And then also, when you come into the facility, like for tours or different things like that, we have to have appointment-based in order to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones, you have the floor.
I do have one question and then a comment. What drove your decision to offer from starting at age 1 as opposed to infants?
The liability with the smaller children, for one, was one of the concerns. So that was one of our decisions in that regard. However, if once the facility is in place or we are approved for that and we're able to determine a needs assessment based on the individuals that are coming to the child care center, then we can revisit that at that particular time.
I would definitely encourage you to look into
Okay.
the younger ages. And I say that because when I was pregnant, first of all, Douglas County absolutely does need daycare centers. They absolutely do need quality daycare centers. Yes, there are an abundance of daycare centers, but some of the care that is being provided there is deplorable and really does need to be assessed. I got on waiting list with my oldest child when I was still 6 months pregnant. to try to find a place that had adequate and appropriate care. And because of the lack of facilities and my situation, I had to go back to law school when my oldest child was 3 weeks old. So I took her with me because there was no option. Nobody should have to be put in a situation where you have to make a decision between whether you can pursue your goals, dreams, have a career, be able to pay towards helping out your family and having adequate care for your children. And so I would encourage all of us up here to take that into consideration when we are looking at that, because Douglas County, I will also say, for our foster care population, we are having to bus children out of the county to go to various different child care facilities because we have such strenuous requirements that have to be met in terms of quality and star rating. So we cannot send these kids just anywhere just because someone has decided that they have a pop-up shop in their house. That drastically interferes with parents' ability to have visitations with their children. So there are other issues at play besides whether or not just your typical white picket fence, 2.5 kids in a dog family needs this service. And so I would just ask everyone to consider that when they're making this decision, and I do appreciate you for bringing this forward. The only thing I would ask you is to consider the younger infant, 6 weeks or older.
Thank you for sharing. That is, I will bring that to the attention of the consultant, and then we will gauge that need by completing a needs assessment.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Any other questions? I have just a few for you.
Yes,
Could you
ma'am.
just, what is the square footage? What's the square footage on this? 10,000, I'm so sorry, I missed that. Okay, will there be a nurse on site or anyone that's clinical in case there's a problem? Have you considered that, adding a nurse to your staffing?
No, we have not considered adding a nurse. However, the staff is required to be CPR certified.
Yeah, CPR, that was one of my questions for you. Okay, and then, of course, infection control and things of that sort.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, when they're
Yes.
young like that, everything spreads, everybody's coughing and things like that. So I know you have some things in place. What
Yes,
about, if the builder is here, are you going to look at positive pressure? Talk about your airflow in this building. What are you looking at, the builder? If you just... Positive, negative pressure.
My
What are
name
you?
is Dalton Wright from Wright Ventures. That will be in our design of architecture. So
Okay.
those things are going to be brought into focus, and we're going to be code compliant.
Yeah, code compliant.
The air flow the code has changed, so we need to meet all those codes when we come to design this building.
Okay, since you're here, I want to know about acoustics, because it sounds like this property, your property will abut up to some subdivisions, and 6 months, babies cry. And you have some families that have already raised their children, and if I just want to talk about acoustics. Will this building be soundproof so that the neighbors nearby are not agitated with noise of babies crying all day? Talk to me about that.
All that can be done in the designing of it.
Okay.
When we are building the walls, we can have that in there. We can make it insulated so that noise is abated. So those are things that we can put in our design.
Okay.
When we come to the building part of it.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have. I'm pretty easy.
Thank you.
I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
If you would
thank
take your seat.
Okay, thank you.
Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do I have a motion on Z 2024-52?
Chairman, this is Rob Thomas. I'd like to make a motion to approve Z 2024-52 for the rezoning from residential low density to CG, general commercial, for daycare. And with the one condition read in by staff that it stays a daycare.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving Z 2024-52, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. This is unanimous. Madam Chairman,
All
Z 2024-52 comes to the board with a unanimous recommendation for approval with the condition it was read into the record.
Okay, thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion that we approve Z 2024-58 for the daycare center with the recommendation as presented by staff that it maintains as a daycare.
Okay, Commissioner, I believe we have one correction. Is it 52 or 50?
52.
It's 52. I know you see 58, but it's been changed to 52.
All right, so let me amend the motion, Z 2024-52.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve with the stipulation that it remains as a daycare and for it to be rezoned as residential low density to general commercial.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, board? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We have a 3-1 vote and the motion.
Madam Chair, I need to abstain.
Okay. So we have a 3 vote yes and then 1 abstain. Okay, so with that being said, the motion carries. And I yield back the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. At this point in time, Ms. Duncan has a request for us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regard to application S 2024-34, that was the first item on the agenda. Mr. McWhorter is here. He had to arrive late due to traffic as a result of an accident on the interstate, but he is here. So if the board is inclined, we could ask for a motion to reconsider Z 2024-34 in the meeting this evening. If the board is not inclined to have a motion to reconsider that, then it will stand as you have currently approved it, which is a motion to table to the October 1st regular
Yes or
meeting.
no?
So we would start with the Planning and Zoning Board. We would need somebody who voted affirmatively to actually make the motion
Okay.
for reconsideration if it is the will of the board. If it is not the will of the board, then this will be on the agenda October 1st.
Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a recommendation to reconsider S 2024-34 tonight?
Can we have some discussion first?
Well, once we untable it.
I mean,
Right, so
I mean,
again,
to-
if you're inclined to make a motion to reconsider and
Make
it
a
is duly
motion, then get it.
seconded, then you could have discussion as you
We get a
normally
second,
would.
then we
Well, I
have
meant the
discussion.
discussion about tabling it, about not tabling, is what I'm saying. The discussion is pertaining to not tabling it, because, I mean, to untable it, I should say.
Well, so what we would ask
Right.
for, because it is, not to get too deep into the Roberts Rules reads, but because it is the same meeting agenda, what would be appropriate would be either a motion to reconsider or a motion to rescind if you are inclined to take it up again. So what I would most likely ask for is a motion to reconsider the item on the agenda this evening, at which point we could then go back and revisit what was made. We could also accept a motion to rescind if you wanted to rescind your request to table. But what we would ask for is a motion that is duly seconded, indicating that at least 2 members of the deliberative body would like to take up the issue. If there is no motion or second, we will consider that to be the answer to our question.
Once we have a motion and a second, then we can discuss.
And can we retable it after that, if that's the case?
You can make a motion to reconsider, and if your decision is still to table, then
Okay.
yes, you could make a motion to
Okay, all right,
table.
sounds
Yes, sir.
Already tabled.
Okay, so we gotta untable it then, right? Motion to untable.
Motion to reconsider.
Can I have a
Reconsider.
motion to
Okay.
reconsider?
All right. Let me get I do.
It was S 2024-34.
Okay, first one, okay. Well, I make a motion to reconsider S 2024-34.
Now, do I have a second? If I don't have a second, the motion dies
Motion dies for lack of a second.
because of a lack of a second. Do I have another motion? If we don't,
I think you can kick it over to the Board of Commissioners
With
and
no
say that
recommendation.
it failed for lack of a second. If the board is inclined to take it up, then we would consider that the
Yes.
direction of the meeting.
I will throw it over to you, Madam Chair, with no recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have a motion to reconsider S 2024-34?
I make a motion to reconsider S 2024-34.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor in the discussion board. We have a motion and a second. Please indicate by raising your right hand if you agree. We have a 4-0 vote, and the motion carries to reconsider.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Right, so Mr.
Carmen or
McWhorter-
Ms. Duncan, do you want to give us a brief reminder?
Good plan. Sorry, bear with me.
And we've already had the public hearing on this last month, so then we'll go straight to any discussion.
And Allison, I don't think we need a full.
Totally agree.
rehash.
I'm just trying to get you back to the slides that, again, staff's recommendation is denial, but if you are inclined to approve, we are asking for a condition that the applicant shall plant the pencil holly plantings every 2 feet on the side of the accessory building. And Mr. McWhorter is here if you have specific questions for him.
Let him up. Get the applicant up, please.
Are y'all going to take it up? Okay. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. McWhorter of staff?
You want to ask about the conditions?
Huh?
You want to ask about the conditions? Okay, I have a question. So first, are you agreeing with the conditions for planting those type of trees?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the amount of trees, 2 feet apart, et cetera. So you read the conditions. I know you just got
That's
here, but you read the
that's
conditions.
perfectly fine.
We already familiar with the conditions?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
When they came out, we discussed.
Okay,
it
you
then.
discussed it, where to plant them at,
Yeah.
how to kind of, so basically to plant them in order to kind of disguise it, kind of hide it a little bit, because it's so close to the right-of-way,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay.
And keep the up and maintain the upkeep.
Yeah.
Not to let them just grow all wild.
All right, you understand, even if you get approved here, you still have to come back and get the variance,
Yeah.
because it's still within the right-of-way, or too close to the right-of-way.
Understood.
Okay, all right. Anything new transpired from the last time we were here?
Nothing new.
Okay, all right. I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I'll throw it over to the board for any questions you might have of Mr. McWhorter of staff.
Okay, thank you so much. Board, we have any questions for Mr. McWhorter?
Just one brief.
Okay. No questions? Okay, I yield the floor back to you.
Questions? Okay, planning and zoning board, you've heard the discussion, what there was of it. Do I have a motion on S 2024-34?
This is Frank Payne. I recommend approval of S 2024-34, a request for a special use permit to allow a 650 square feet metal accessory building located at 2027 South County Line, Lithia Spring, 30122, with the condition as outlined by staff.
I have a motion, and do I have a second?
Ms. Rob-
Go ahead.
Ms. Rob Thomas, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor of approving S 2024-34 with the condition that was read into the record and agreed upon, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Madam Chairman, it carries. S 2024-34 carries with a recommendation for approval with the condition that was read into the record.
Thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Madam,
I move to approve agenda item S 2024-34 with the conditions as read in by staff.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion, board? We have a-
Please do not build anything else on your property
Right.
without getting permission first.
Cannot.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there are no more questions, Board of Commissioners, if you agree with the motion, please raise your right hand. We have a 4-0 vote, and the motion carries. So thank you. I yield the floor back to you, Chairman
Thank you
Simmons.
very much.
Thank you.
Mr. McWhorter, I guess we'll see you at the variance meeting in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much. Having nothing else to come before the Planning and Zoning Board tonight, I will declare our meeting adjourned. Madam Chair?
Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the Board of Commissioners, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
May I add one final thing? We have had a request from someone to speak. It will not be on the record, and it is not germane to the agenda. We are having a friendly philosophical disagreement about whether that is allowed or not, but I had said that I would present to you if you would like to hear somebody speak for an item that is not germane to the agenda and is not on the agenda. So that's what I asked.
I don't have an objection. I don't have an
Okay.
objection.
All right, you can come forth.
I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioners, and Planning and Zoning. So, Amy McCoy, again, 9938 Ashton Old Road. Find it a little odd that this can't be on public record, since it has had a lot to do with planning and zoning, what's been allowed in a city that this county also oversees. So I am here on behalf of the Heritage Preservation Coalition that is out in the Villa Rica area. That is actually having some troubles with receiving, and this is why I'm here, because we need your help. We need some accountability in that community. We have asked for certain open records. There has been a large population of residents in that area who are being displaced by pressure and zoning issues that violate the Fair Housing Act. So one, I am so proud of each and every one of you that has taken the time to challenge these fair housing issues that we have seen in this meeting today. As a fair housing advocate, I thank you for that. So there are some public records that we've been asking for that has gone beyond the Sunshine Act. So this is why I need government to be accountable to help pursue this government to hold them accountable. So that's why it's odd that it cannot be public record. So, and I will make sure that this list is emailed to each and every one of you to help in that. So we've been asking about the list of the weed killers that's been sprayed in all the buffers that has not only been killing the grass, but has also been killing the fish. And there is, like I said, a large population, more than 100 residents in the last decade have died from cancer, and a lot of residents currently living in this area currently have cancer. And these are targeting seniors, Black seniors, and Latino seniors. There is, we also need to know what the plan is for the storm runoff that's been happening on the new road, which has put massive impact on the creeks that, again, not only are the pesticides being put into these buffers, but there has been a large amount of sewage that has been going into these streams as well. Again, this is what we feel has been contaminants that have been imposed on these residents. A brand new apartment building was just put on the former city dump. None of that trash was moved out of there beforehand. So this is why this open records is what we need. Lastly, and again, there may be some additional comments that will also come in email. So we need to know who is the MS4 Phase 2 permitted license inspector that's inspecting this area. A lot of the concerns that are happening is that they've been going by under the radar and no one's able to hold them accountable. Because we are able to, as elected officials, be able to pick who is on our ethics board, no one is being held accountable because nobody's willing to challenge or disrupt the status quo. Well, as a fair housing advocate, it is now time that we start holding our community elected officials accountable, especially when deaths are on the front door. So, like I said, I'm proud of each and every one of you who've taken the time to ask these vital questions because it impacts the citizens that help get many of you in office. So thank you for that. We need your help on these reports that have been, again, railroad blocked to be able to have access to. People are dying. So we need your help. On behalf of the Heritage Preservation Coalition, these residents need your help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCoy, thank you so much. With that being said, you want to end your meeting again?
Again, as a reminder, the meeting is adjourned.
It's already adjourned.
Yeah,
Okay,
this was
thank
not
you.
on the agenda.
Okay, good.
This is not anything that requires any action. This was a request that was made, and because the meetings are adjourned, we left it to the board if they wanted to hear that.
Thank you.
Thank you.